And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Icaion, or Icaion, I don't know how to pronounce it, it's a made-up word, from Tabula Games. Now, they made a game called Mysthia, which introduced us to this really weird sci-fi universe, but the game itself was kind of a very strange and intriguing Euro-style game, and so this is the sequel to that, and in fact, it comes with a way to combine the two games. I got that with this. It's called Mysthia the Fall. It uses a lot of components from Mysthia, from Icaion, and some extra components that are used to merge the two together. I will not be reviewing that in this one. I haven't played this one yet. I'll have to do this one at another time, the combining of the two. So right now we're just looking at Icaion out of the box. Here we go. Each player is going to have their own color board here, and they're going to start with these machines that are going to be on the board. And they're placed in these different slots here. And these machines are going to be helping you get this quom. There's 5 different colors of this. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Q-O-A-M or apostrophe in there somewhere. But you have these different types of machines. You have harvesters, scavengers, and refiners. And then randomly, or drafting, players are going to start with a starting character, and they're also going to start with some sort of item card that they're going to have. And there's various item cards that you can pick. And when you put these together, they're going to give you special abilities that you have, but also it tells you how big your hand size can be, how many cards you can have in play in front of you. There are different cards over the course of the game that you can put in play in front of you that give you more special abilities, and your starting quom. So here you'd start with 1 green and 1 of the brown quom. And then you also get your character. You'll put one of your bands on it, and this character is going to be moving around the board, taking your actions for you. So I'm showing you a board setup. There's different, it's going to be set up differently depending on how many players. There is this Colossus who's going to start in one of these craters here, and you'll be sticking in each of the rounds of the game. You'll have these little tokens here that are worth 1 to 3, these shards that are in them. And then there's also these little viruses that are popping up all over the board, parasites. And they're going to start with a few on the board. You're also going to start with some of this quom stuff on the board in the different color regions. And players are going to be taking, this is your main character that you'll have, and they'll be moving from spot to spot on the board. And then when you're at the vertex of these different areas, those are the areas that you'll be affecting at any given point. The game is going to take place over 3 years. In each year, you're going to have 5 or so events. There are these 5 events here, and each year you're going to add in a random Colossus card and shuffle them together, and in year 2 you'll add a second one. And then each round of the game you'll turn over a card, and this card's going to tell you which regions on the board will produce different goods. And you'll also see that parasites will show up in those particular colored regions on those turns. And so this tells you how much of that quom that is produced in those regions. When you turn over a card that shows the Colossus will spawn parasites and move around the board and possibly attack the people who are next to it. After you use the event, each player is going to get a player turn, and then you can move. And you'll be able to move 2 areas. You can't stay where you are unless you pay a blue quom. It's going to let you to set up camp and essentially let you stay where you are. And by the way, it's perfectly legitimate to have multiple people in the same vertex. As the game goes by, your movement might change some. Your board is important for many reasons, and one of them it shows you, for example, I always move 2, and I can pay a blue quom to set up camp. But if I build this Reaper, I can also pay a blue to move. And if I build this device, I can move again. And so building these different things, each turn you're going to move and then take a main action. One of your actions is building these, and as you build these, you're going to get resources, you're going to get special abilities, and possibly at the very end, get bonus points as time goes by. Now, whenever you do any kind of thing that gives you quom, so let's say for some reason I get 2 white and a pink, you got to put it in one of these spots here. You can't put anything else into this spot until these are all gone, or you can. Let's say later on I get 2 greens and a blue. I can replace these or put them in a new spot if it's open. But by opening these up, I have 2 more spots to put different things. So you also have an attack value, which is going to go up as these are built on the board, and here's a spot to keep shards. So there's a lot of things. It's a little bit difficult to kind of explain all this simultaneous. I just wanted to show you that as you put these in a board, this board gets better. And that is one of the actions you can take on your turn. You can pay a certain number of quom based on how many things are in a region. You're paying the color of that region, and though brown is wild, to put something there. There can be multiple in a region, but you can't have more than one of the same color and more of one of the same type. So these are all 3 types and 3 different colors. And by building them, you're going to get points. Another thing you can do as your main action is extract. When you extract, you'll get 1 quom from each region adjacent to where your person is. You get an extra one if you have a harvester there. If you have one of these devices there, you will get to draw a curio card. I'll talk more about those. And if you have the this machine here, the refiner, you also just score victory points. If too many parasites show up in an area, they basically kill all the quom and wound your person there. By the way, wounding just means on your next turn you stand up and you won't get any kind of special actions. It's not awful, but it's also not good. So you might want to kill these parasites, and so you can do so by spending the white quom, and you will get basically, for each one that you spend, you can kill off a trooper, but if you increase your strength, you can, I'm killing the quom here, you kill off the parasites, and you can increase your value to kill off more of these. You can also investigate the Colossus. So if you're next to the crater where the Colossus is, which could be dangerous because he could move and take you out, you will reveal one of the shards and look at the number on the shard. It's a little small number, hard to read, but it's going to be 1 to 3. And then you can pay up to that many pink to get points for doing that. And if you pay the full amount, so if it's a 3 and you pay 3 pink, you also get to keep these for the end of the game scoring. Speaking of end of game scoring, you can also, if you're next to the central area here, retrieve an apparatus. You can only have 1 apparatus per color, and also 1 per year. There's 1s, 2s, and 3s. And each of these, if you install them, is going to score you points for various things over the course of the game. When you get them, you'll place them next to your board here. And then if you're next to a crater of that color, you can pay to install them, which will then mean you're going to get the victory points for that, whatever it is. It might give you victory points per shard you've gotten, or victory points per attack power, or victory points for the number of machines you have on the board, or what have you. And you will score those if you install them at the end of the game. There's also special actions that a player can take. You can flip this and take another whole action. You can also play a card. This is called using the emergency power supply, and you can use it once per year, although at certain points it will be reset on the board. It shows it right here being reset, and other things will reset it. But you'll have curio cards. Curio cards cost green to play them. They can give you permanent abilities, like this one gives you a permanent sword, or this one gives you a permanent area to store crystals at it, or this lets you trade in any 2 quom for a quom of another color. So you have these permanent abilities, and sometimes they're just one-time use. I pay a green to take 3 quom of my choice. You can only have so many of these in your hand and so many that you played in front of you based on your initial things. So for example, this character can have a hand of 4 but can only play 2 in front of him, although he starts with 5 resources, which is a pretty good deal. At the end of the game, and the game's going to end after 3 years, players are going to be adding up the points that they got over the course of the game. You will need to have gotten some shards. If you didn't get any, you lose 15 points. Having 1 gives you 0, but if you get 5 of them, you can get up to 30 points that way. Some of your cards will score you points, and your leftover quom that you haven't spent will score you points. So there's various ways that you'll have gotten points over the game. So your special abilities can get you points too. Whoever has the most points is the winner. As always with these games, fantastic components. You can see all the different miniatures come in a plastic tray that goes in here, and then another plastic tray fits on top of those. The miniatures are all great, if very, very creepy looking. They have the The tiles are nice and thick. Now, these I added these containers myself, but the gems look good. My only complaint might really just be these, and even them I'm not really sure that I should complain about these much because they have a little number on them, but man, is it small. And that's good because you don't accidentally see the number, but at the same time, whew. Now this giant thing itself here, cool miniature, and it actually matters in this game how it plays. Now realize that the cards, you have these cards that tell you what you can do in your turn and how you can spell the quome, so that's a pretty handy thing to have. And not knowing what all the cards mean and matching, I guess this shows water, so that's obviously the ones with water here, but it's not always completely clear in that regard. And I had to look up the symbology, but it's not that hard to symbology. There's only a little. So overall, I'll say A+ on the components here. Alrighty, so that's the game. Now there's a lot going on in this game. There's not a lot of take that, although there was a few take that cards where you could knock somebody else over and get some points. I actually dislike those. That's my number one thing about this game I disliked. I would have just taken those out. This game doesn't feel like that's the way this game should be, and someone can run up to you and hit you with a card and get points. Yay! There's no way to defend against it. There's no way to really avoid it other than just trying to stay away from people. I didn't like that. There's also sometimes just luck can hit you in the wrong way. Parasites show up here, the Colossus moves and drops parasites off in this region. You don't know exactly where the Colossus is going to move, so I guess you could just say always kill all the parasites. And in fact, at the end of every round, you keep track of how many parasites you've killed, and whoever killed the most gets points. That's a way to get a lot of points. So there's that incentive to do that, but beware. I mean, after my first game, I thought, this makes a lot more sense. Okay, I got to be careful about these random things. They're not as random as you might think. Now, the track where you have these 5 cards that are different season cards that match the 5 different areas on the board, and you have the Colossus cards. The year ends when you play the 5th season card. So if a Colossus card shows up as a 6th card, it doesn't actually get played. Now, once there's 3 Colossus cards in there, the chance of you playing all 5 season cards and then 3 Colossi cards is very unlikely. And you could go up to 8 rounds. There could be a lot of rounds. You're just not sure when those Colossus cards are going to come out. But it's an interesting system. It's straight up from Miss Thea. I like the system. I think it works fine. I don't think it's like that amazing that I needed to see it again in this game. It is what it is, though. And again, this game, while I like the components and everything, they still tend to put how a game looks over the function of a game. The game is certainly beautiful and cool looking, but sometimes it would help if I could just remember what things are. The iconography is not as bad as Miss Thea, but still, it's sometimes I'm like, oh, that's right, that region is pink. Well, the pink regions are pretty easy to tell, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of different ways to play this game. You can play by fighting. You can play by building up cool card combinations. And in fact, building cool card combinations is going to help you. In one game I played, I got a move card out right away. That gave me an extra movement point. That was useful. To be able to move 3, I was running all over the map. But you can decide to go and pull the things out. Each of the quoa has a different result. Like blue is used for movement, brown is used to build things on the board, pink is used to check the Colossus, green is used to play cards, and white is used to fight the parasites. So they each have their specific function, and so it takes a bit. This is a game with a lot of cogs, but they work together. I'd be hesitant to call it overly complex, because it's not necessarily, but it is not immediately intuitive as to how the game works. You're not going to be able to do everything, and other players are going to go, like I said, there's not a ton of direct interaction, but there's definitely interaction where I go and mine all the stuff out of this region. So I like it. I think it's a very interesting game. I don't know that it's a great game. There's a little bit too much fiddliness for me, and I suspect that I may like this one better than this. We'll have to wait and see the combination of the two. But the cool miniatures make it look like a dudes on a map area, fighting thing, and it's not. It's not even area control. You're just running around harvesting stuff and trying to score points in various cool ways. The special abilities help, and there's also special weird things that you can build. There's like a little module included with the game where you can build weird little statues and things that will give you points too. That's neat. I played with it. I don't know that it is critical, But it is neat to have some more plastic stuff on the board. So this game didn't need plastic figures. It could have used little wooden things. But I think they enhanced the weird alien feel that this world gives to you. Side by side with Miss Thea, the first game in the series. I think I might like Miss Thea slightly better. I shouldn't say slightly. I think I like Miss Thea better. But it is also, Miss Thea has more attacking and more direct conflict. This is more of a Euro-style game and getting resources. So kind of which one you tilt on is probably which one you would prefer to get. Either way, it provides a unique, interesting experience. It says in the box 90 to 120 minutes. I feel like that's a pretty... It's a pretty solid thing. I think you're going to lean much more towards the 2-hour mark. Even with everyone knowing what they're doing, there's still a lot of thought that goes into the game. But it does not feel like the amount of other Euro games that we see. There's something different here. And for that reason, not alone, there's other good reasons to recommend it. I would say check out Icaion. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!